Chapter 1. You are listening at FameTV.info. When Mingyi wakes up from his dream. He sits on the bed and his mind is full of just dreams. He falls to the ground and the pale light stabs his eyes. He wants to stand up, but he can't make any effort. He hears the girls scream and Jiang Zimo's flurried name. He wants to open his mouth and scold Jiang Zimo, a shameless scheming bitch, but I couldn't scold anything. I felt cold all over. When Mingyi sits up with a lingering fear and trembles all over. He took several breaths and finally let his body stop shivering. He opened the quilt and planned to drink water, but as soon as his feet touched the ground, he suddenly thought of something and felt the cold under his feet in disbelief, when Mingyi looks up in shock and looks around the room where he lives. The messy furnishings, the magazine posters he took between himself are still pasted on the wall, and the guitar is still on the ground. This is his room in the house of SGC. He went to the bathroom in his room in disbelief and looked at the familiar sunny and handsome face in the mirror. It's him, it's really him, he's still alive, when Mingyi can't believe it. Isn't he dead? That day, he had a drink and quarreled with Jiang Zimo. He was pushed to the road by Jiang Zimo between pushing and shoving, and then a car came. He was directly hit by the car and died on the spot. It was this death that made him realize that the world he lived in turned out to be a book. Jiang Zimo was the protagonist. He was just a supporting role. He thought that as a man Jiang Zimo intended to hook up with, his elder brother Si Junduo should also be the protagonist. But later he found out that his elder brother was just a supporting role. Not only was he a supporting role, his elder brother would be blackened because of his death. He became the stepping stone for Wenbo and Jiang Zimo to achieve the right result. Finally, because of Wenbo's persecution, he was poor and his family was ruined. Yes, Wenbo is the other protagonist of this book. When Mingyi still remembers how shocked and indignant his brother was when he saw his body in the three-dimensional book he saw after his death. He looked at Jiang Zimo with cold and frightening eyes. He said, "You pushed him." Jiang Zimo cried that he didn't mean it. Wenbo protects Jiang Zimo and persuades his brother to calm down. Xiaomo doesn't mean it. Don't blame him. I can't blame him for his death. No matter whether he's intentional or not, he's dead. He's not intentional. What's the use? When Mingyi had never seen his brother so angry. In his impression, Si Junduo was always calm and self-confident. It seemed that everything was under his control. But that day, his calm disappeared. He looked at Jiang Zimo and said coldly, "Either you turn yourself in or I send you to prison. You are manslaughter, you and the driver, we all need to take responsibility." Jiang Zimo was scared, crying that he was unintentional, he can't go to prison. Wenbo said in a hate voice, "How can you do this to him? When Mingyi is dead. It's his fault. Why do you blame him on Xiaomo? It's him who pushes people. If he doesn't push people, how can things happen? Si Junduo, why are you so cold-blooded and merciless? Don't you know that Xiaomo likes you? Don't you like him? Is it worth it for a dead Wen Mingyi? Is Xiaomo not as important to you as Wen Mingyi?" When Mingyi looks at his brother's figure. At that moment, he is full of fear. He knows that Si Junduo has a good feeling for Jiang Zimo. Even because of this good feeling, he and Si Junduo often make a lot of trouble after Jiang Zimo appears. He satirizes Si Junduo, and Si Junduo rebukes him. He was afraid that Jiang Zimo was more important in Si Junduo's heart, and he was even more afraid that Si Junduo would let himself die because of his feelings for Jiang Zimo. He looked at Si Junduo with fear and heard him say coldly and firmly, "When Mingyi, who is dead in your mouth, is my younger brother who I grew up looking at. In my heart, no one is more important than him. Jiang Zimo, you'd better turn yourself in, or I'll send you to prison myself." Jiang Zimo cried and shook his head, advised him, "Junduo, you can't do this to me. If you kill people, you should be punished by the law. I won't let you send him to prison. Wen Bo said angrily, "Si Junduo, I really misunderstood you. I tell you, I won't let you succeed." Wen Bo finished, took Jiang Zimo away, leaving Si Junduo alone in the morgue. Wen Mingyi looks at him. He is surprised to see that Si Junduo, who is always calm and calm, tears silently as he looks at his body. That he was shocked and looked at Si Junduo, the man who had been called his brother for more than 10 years. He wanted to go over and hug him, but he saw that the pages in front of him were turning rapidly, and the words flew into his mind one by one. He didn't see them, but he already knew what happened after that. Finally, the book stops at the end of several chapters. When Mingyi sees the familiar 3D characters and Si Junduo who is not familiar with him. At that time, Si Junduo was very weak. He lived in a dilapidated residential house, wearing a 20 yuan shirt that he would never wear before, but his face was calm and calm. Wen Bo could not let such a man who wanted to send his lover to prison live. He stood in front of Si Junduo and asked him, "Do you regret it? Regret not killing you and Jiang Zimo directly?" "I regret that," Si Junduo said calmly. "Up to now, if you still say that, you know that Xiaomo liked you at that time, and you don't know how much pain you caused him at that time. When Mingyi just lost his life, but what Xiaomo lost was his love. What a shame. When Mingyi wants to rush up and blow up Wen Bo's dog head to see if his brain is a pig brain. How can he say such shameless words?" However, as soon as he ran past, he heard Wen Bo say, "Since you care about him so much, why don't you go with him?" Wen Mingyi was surprised. The next second, he saw Wen Bo draw out a knife and stab Si Junduo. "No." Wen Mingyi runs over, but is surprised to find that Wen Bo's face has changed. His eyes move down, only to find that Wen Bo's belly is also inserted with a knife. Wen Mingyi was shocked. He looked at Si Junduo and heard him say in a low voice, "I wrote a suicide note. I arranged someone. If I don't go to see him before 5 o'clock today, he will call the police. Guess what I wrote in my suicide note?" He said, "Increase the strength of the knife, in ruthless way, I hate losing business, oh me, I will get back." Wen Mingyi just watched Si Junduo and Wen Bo fall down in front of him. He ran to Si Junduo anxiously, but he couldn't get there. He saw the pages of the book turn quickly, and the words came into his mind again. Wen Bo is not dead, he is the leading role, he will not die. Jiang Zimo experienced this farewell to Wen Bo. After Wen Bo woke up, he held him and told his love, and Wen Bo lived happily with him. This is the end of the book. As for Si Junduo, the protagonists are already together. This kind of dangerous villain is naturally dead and nobody cares about the corpse. Wen Mingyi still remembers his sadness and despair at that time. He can't believe that his respected brother would come to such an end. He's not willing. Why? What's wrong with him? What's wrong with his brother? Why should they all end up dead? He lost consciousness in such reluctance, but he didn't expect to wake up again and return to the real world. When Mingyi quickly runs back to his bed, finds his mobile phone, and lights up the screen. It says September 15, 2018. When he looks at the date on his mobile phone, he can't help laughing. God treats him very well. He is not only reborn, but also reborn before the relationship between him and his brother breaks down. That's great. This time, he will not let himself and his brother end up dead alone. He must also let his brother see the true face of Jiang Zimo, a white lotus cunning bitch. Stay away from Jiang Zimo and hang and smell the dregs. Wen Mingyi looks at the 20.00 on his mobile phone. At this time, his brother should have gone home and is probably eating. He turned and ran to the door. As a result, he just ran to the stairway and ran into Si Junduo, who was just coming home and was about to return to his room. He directly ran into his arms. Si Junduo is trying to push him away, but Wen Mingyi directly hugs him. Wen Mingyi hugs him. Thinking about the pictures he saw and the final result, he almost doesn't cry with a sour nose. Brother. He held Si Junduo and whispered, "Brother Junduo." Si Junduo listened to the sound of brother and looked down at the people in his arms. He still remembered that when he met Wonmingi yesterday, Wonmingi was like a small artillery battle. Where he was calm, he was upset. He opened his mouth and scolded him. But the more he trains, the more Wonmingi blows up. In the end, he even says that he doesn't live here and he wants to move out. When Si Junduo heard the speech, he thought of Wonmingi's rebellious high school. At that time, he was also suddenly ill. He fought against himself every day. He didn't even call his brother. When he met him, he either pretended to be invisible or talked back to him. He would rather rent a house near the school than live with him. At that time, he was upset, and the word roll was the word for export. When Mingi shouts roll on roll, slams the door and leaves. I didn't expect to see you today. I even know how to be coquettish. Don't you just roll? He said on purpose. Wonmingi was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reflected that he should have quarreled with Si Junduo before. I'm not a ball, roll what roll, don't roll. He retorted. Still slamming the door. Si Junduo asked him. Wonmingi hugged him and shook his head. I won't fall. You know you're wrong. I see. Si Junduo was satisfied when he saw that he had admitted his mistake and had a good attitude. He pinched his face and said to him, okay, let's go down to dinner. Aunt Zhang has made your favorite dish. Wonmingi nodded, loosened his hands, took his arm and said, let's go down together. Si Junduo calmly pulled his arm out of his hand. I won't go, you go to eat. Why? I've eaten in the company. Now I'll come back to change my clothes and go to the cinema with Zimo later. Wonmingi instantly opened his eyes. What do you say? How did his brother go to the movies with Jiang Zimo, a White Lotus cunning bitch? What else can he eat? What mood does he have to eat? You don't go. Wonmingi blurted out, Brother Junduo, you can't go. Listen to the full novel at FameTV.info, direct link in the description.